All right, so we'll go ahead and get started as folks are checking in. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for attending the Montgomery College Building Trades Program HVAC industry event. My name is Chantal Vilmar. I serve as the department chairperson for the Department of Applied Technologies and the Godelsky Institute for Technical Education. My colleague, Nick Shishka, and I are moderators for this event. Nick will monitor the chat for questions from our virtual audience. We have quite a few people attending virtually as well. At this time, I invite Ed Roberts, Dean of the Department of Applied Technologies and the Godelsky Institute of Technical Education, to share a few remarks about MC's HVAC program.
Just a few. Okay. As my boss says, don't get me started, but yeah. It really is my pleasure to be here today and introduce our panel and thank everybody for attending. Just briefly, one of the reasons we're doing this, aside from the fact that Johnson Controls has provided us with a grant this year to accomplish a task we've been working on for a number of years, a big part of that grant is to talk about the HVAC industry to the rest of the world. There is literally a critical shortage of skilled technicians in the HVAC world right now. One of the things that's interesting about all of what we call the construction trades area, the skilled trades area, is the average age for workers in that is 58, 59 years old. So there are more people retiring every year than actually are coming in. So there's a big deficit in technicians out there to refill this. And that's a big part of what this grant is about and what this session is particularly about, is to talk about the wonderful opportunities. Nobody thinks much about an HVAC technician until the middle of July and it's 90 degrees out and it dies on you all of a sudden. And then you'll pay anything to have them come in there. And these days you are paying just about anything to get them in there because of the volume of work and everything else. But these are very rewarding careers. We've had, excuse me, this building has in its 30th year now. This fall will be our 30th anniversary. And we didn't have HVAC in the program initially. And I came here to build the building trades program, which was new at that time. And the first question I said, why don't you have HVAC in here? So we did. After about 4 years, we finally did get that going. And it's of the skilled trade areas, it's, is probably one of the most in high demand right now. It's probably, I would say, the most skilled and knowledge required to be a technician, and also a great job to have. I've known lots of HVAC technicians in my professional life and personal life, and they all love what they do. They all make good livings. And the people that they serve when they get out there, as I said, on that hot sunny day, they love them to death when they're leaving and the system's working right again. And that's a big part. And it's a challenging career because you have to be good at thinking things through, troubleshooting what the problems are, what's the fix, and it gets you, it kind of stimulates me. I would like doing that kind of work because it's you have to solve some problems, and it's a challenging career. So we have a terrific panel here to talk about these opportunities. And real quickly, of course, we do, I almost forgot this part. As I said, we do have an HVAC program. And I also want to point out that we have an industry accreditation for our program, which means we are teaching the right things in the right sequence. One of the panelists has a lot to do with that organization, but we are a para-certified HVAC program, which means we're accredited by the industry itself. And we are doing the things that the industry says we need to be doing. And that's an important part about our program. And we have a full range. Our program right now is strictly an entry-level program, mostly focused on residential. But one of the things we're going to be doing with this grant is to be adding a building controls program. And that's the building automation systems in buildings like this, in commercial buildings, that literally drive the system, make the heat and cold come on at the right time and go off at the right time. The person that runs a system in a very, very large building can do the whole thing from a computer screen. And that's what they're all digital controls, and we're going to be building the lab to teach those things. We're going to be adding some commercial refrigeration programs also to try and get more on the commercial aspects of HVAC. But for now, you'll get the basics that'll get you into the opportunities to be able to learn more as you grow. And also the other option after our program is to think about apprenticeship, or even before our program. We have partnerships with both of there's a union, Local 602 Steam Fitters. We have been a 35-year partner of theirs, and we're going to be building a new HVAC. We had another one that left recently, but we're going to be building another apprenticeship program right here at the college to serve the industry in this area. So those are great opportunities. The nice thing about apprenticeship training is you don't have to pay anything for your education. It's all free. And you're going to get a job that pays pretty well. 602 Steam Fitters, their apprentices in their first year make $45,000 a year. When they're finished in their fifth year, which is the last year of the program, they're making in the upper $50,000. And when they finish the apprenticeship program, they automatically get the state license that's required, and they start making $92,000 a year. There aren't many college graduates that can look at that after finishing their education. So think about those numbers. That's important. Okay, so let me introduce the panel. I'll start over on the far right is my longtime friend and associate, Warren Lubson. Warren has been in the industry, and we used to joke about getting shirts. I know, as I said, I know him personally. We were going to get shirts made up. I know Warren Lubson because I go all around the country and they all know him. And next to him, excuse me, we have Mark Reed Bailey, who worked with Johnson Controls. He is a sales manager, account sales manager. Next to him, we have Katie White. Pardon me?
Katie Matrina.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, Kate. Yeah, I went down to the next line.
Wait, is there a story here we don't know?
I have a good, yeah. Yes, let me try that again. I'm dyslexic, so I have an excuse for that. All right, can't read. Katie Matrinas, who is the operations and maintenance and security service manager for Johnson Controls. And next we have Keith White, who is a branch service manager for the Washington, D.C. market, again with Johnson Controls. I want to thank all of our panelists for being here, as well as our participants.
Right.
We're going to be sharing a brief video to just introduce folks to the college.
The skilled worker is in demand, and that's job security. There is a need in this trade for people. It is one of the reasons we are here. I get a lot of calls from a lot of people. I want to get into air conditioning and I want to get a job, and that's fine. The three things that the employer wants from a future candidate, they want them to have a driver's license, because you're going to be driving their truck. And if you can't drive a truck, you're not really much used to it. You are required to be CFC certified. In other words, how to handle refrigerants. The chemicals in refrigerants are detrimental to the atmosphere. And employers want you to have the apprenticeship license. What that is you go online to the state of Maryland and you fill out the application online. $10, they send it to you. There's no test or anything. But what that does is that starts the clock ticking. You have to be an apprentice for 3 years working for a company that has a master mechanic before you're eligible to take a test for a journeyman's license. The college does not handle the journeyman's license, but obviously what we teach helps them get the license. The technical ability of somebody that's going to go on in this trade learns what they need to know to do that here. Our first class is the fundamentals of refrigeration. Whether you're in sports or anything else, you have to learn the fundamentals to understand. And diagnosing what's the matter with it if it's not functioning properly. We have 3 different labs, principally cooling systems, another one heating systems, and another one sort of control systems, so they understand when you go to that thermostat and put it from off to cool or off to heat, what does that actually do? And I have mock-up systems where we can learn hands-on work. We do brazing. We work with the plastic pipes for the drains. We work for electrical to hook up the system. We do have a class where we get the ductwork, we put it together. There's a lot of control work that we do. We teach that sequence not only on air conditioning, but on the furnaces, on boilers, the whole spectrum. I will replace capacitors with ones that are defective. I may put in defective fuses. We want the students to diagnose the problem. The faster you learn how to do that and solve the problem without having callbacks, you're going to make more money because you're more valuable to your employer. You can get a certificate at the college. You would take 24 credits, and there's a certain list of classes you have to take to earn that 24 credits, and you get a certificate. If you continue on to take 60 credits, you can get a degree. It's not two different paths. You get the 24 here if you keep going and get the 60. So it's not this path or this path. It's all one. The work is there, and it's there in more ways than one. It's a good trade. It's going to treat you well. You don't have to worry about the trade going away.
Great, wonderful. There are two segments of this event. The first segment will focus on the professional journeys of our panelists. The second segment will we will discuss how to get into the HVAC industry. And there are also Q&A segments after each particular discussion. So if you have a burning question that you just got to get out, just hold on to the Q&A segment and you'll have an opportunity to ask your question. So let's get started. We're going to begin with an overview of the HVAC technician field and how the opportunities that are available. So this first question is addressed to Warren and Keith. And so just tell us a little bit about what does the HVAC work look like in homes and in commercial settings?
If you want to go first, or
Oh,
go ahead. I'll let you go first, and I'll try
of course.
then.
Yeah, no
that's-
problem.
yeah.
Okay, so so first of all, the HVAC, as we all know, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. It's essentially the refrigeration cycle. You heat up refrigerant to a point where it start cooling, so that it can feel like the environment is at a comfortable level. On the heating side, it's more natural, where you essentially put fire to water, and that's what you have your heat or steam or whatever, right? Our industry covers everything from anything where there's a building where you have heating and cooling, and now there are laws in place now where if you're in a school, it's required that you have heating and cooling in the DC metro area, not necessarily towards the north, but more of the DMV, and in the South, you have to have some AC. Our industry has been around for almost 100 years now, and it's been evolving. We've gone from electromechanical controls to pneumatic controls to analog. Now we're at digital, and it's going to go further beyond that, where we're entering Internet of Things. So that piece of it is evolving. The equipment's evolving. At home, you all know what that is. You have your furnace, which is an indoor unit, and your condenser, which is your outside unit. As we move throughout the industry to light commercial, we have that same thing in a package and VRF, and we start moving to water-cooled chillers, air-cooled chillers, chillers that are as big as this room, serving places like Architect of the Capitol, FDA, Pentagon, yeah, National Institutes of Health,
Yeah.
NASA. That's how big your cooling units getting. They have multiple of them. And some would say if you become a chiller mechanic, you're the cream of the crop. Others would say a little bit different than that, depending on the field you're in. And the controls technician, that's the guy who pulls things together, all the disparate systems together in one, and creates the brains for your building to make sure everything works together. They have to know a little bit of everything. and really understand systems to make sure that everything is working in concert. The brain is telling things what how to happen and when to happen. And to a point now, lighting is included with that. And in some buildings, they'll integrate the security system to function with the HVAC control systems, depending on how sophisticated you get. So I'll leave some for Warren. I could probably talk more and more about it, but
It's really an industry that we can talk a whole lot about because there's so many phases of this industry. To start off, we're really the comfort industry because not only do we heat and cool, we control humidity, air qualities, and everything. There's just so much. Plus, we have another phase of this industry, commercial refrigeration, that Ed touched on a little bit. And if it wasn't for commercial refrigeration, some of these vaccines you've seen come through, we would have a tremendous problem because of the temperatures they have to maintain. We would have trouble with the blood supply of people needing blood because of the temperatures that it has to be kept at. So there's a whole lot more to this industry than people see. And there's so many different phases of the industry. Like he spoke about chillers, we have, like he says, we have equipment that's the size of this room. All right. And we have equipment now that's about the size of this bottle sometimes. All right. And we're seeing so many different changes that are happening, but the environment and what we do has the greatest impact on everybody's life, no matter what area you want to look at. It's the greatest impact on people's life. And it is at this point, one of the highest paying jobs you can get. So whether you come here and get the residential, because we'll all be in agreement. Heat transfer is heat transfer. I don't care what size that piece of equipment is. The science doesn't change, Technology changes, gives us a little better stuff, but this is an industry that really covers so many different things that, I can spend hours talking about the different phases of this industry.
Absolutely.
All right, we're going to move on to our second question. And this question is directed to Katie and Mark, so you can decide who goes first and who answers the questions. It's a two-part question, so there's plenty of opportunity there. Please share a little about your background and what brought you to the field of HVAC. And then here's the two-part question as well. Why did you choose this field and what training and education did you have?
Okay, I'll kick off. So my name is Katie Matrinas, and I'm a service manager for Johnson Controls. I have about 27 mechanics and technicians under me right now. What got me into this position where I'm at today was basically I didn't know what I wanted to do when I started out. I started for a small refrigeration company, and then I came over to Johnson Controls, and I didn't even know what a chiller was. So it took about 7 years to kind of figure out where I wanted to move and how I wanted to move up, and just dealing with customers every day. The life safety portion of it is huge for me, customer satisfaction. It's just every day I learn something new. So.
Oh, thank you.
I don't want to keep going.
Yeah, no problem. Mark Bailey, HVAC strategic account sales manager for Johnson Controls. I started right out of high school. Kind of decided, what am I going to do? And I decided that I was going in the military. So when I met with the recruiter, I had 5 jobs that were on my list. One of them was law enforcement, cryo, which is basically jet fuel, that type thing. The other one was air conditioning, refrigeration, and then roads and grounds. So as I was talking to the recruiter and everything, I was sitting there and, hey, you know what? I like, firearms and that type of thing. So I'm going to be a law enforcement officer. He's like, no, can I counsel you? I said, sure. And he goes, and the recruiter looked at me, he goes, out of all these on this list, HVAC is going to give you the best opportunity to support your family in the future. And I said, well, that makes sense to me. So sign me up. So I got signed up, and I will tell you, I don't regret 1 minute of it. Through my career path, I wanted to stay in the Air Force. I wanted to retire. I wanted to go that, but the government had different decisions. So they were eliminating my job code in HVAC. They told me I was going to be a carpenter. I was like, I don't think so. And I got out and I joined the local union down in Miami, local 725. You know, it's a brother local from 602 here locally. And I worked as a HVAC service mechanic on the Bell South account. So I was maintaining 370 buildings per se on a team, working on the telecommunication side of things. Did that for a while, and you know, moved through the the path to controls and up into management. I had 25 years with Siemens. My education, I kind of did everything backwards. I got my technical trade first. I will tell you, in 1995, I was making $75,000 a year. Okay. Think about that. All right. Down in South Florida. That's real money back then. Right. Today, technicians can go from that or even more. It's definitely a career path to where you can actually say you're a professional in your field. And, you know, and I got my degree afterwards, you know, because I wanted to get into more of the business side of things. So I got a degree in operations management analysis and then pushed off and got an MBA with a specialization in environmental management, which allowed me to move into a sales position and then into a sales manager's position. And my trajectory as far as income has always been up. I haven't left one job to another job and haven't made more income for my family.
So what are you working on now, Mark?
I'm working on a doctorate. Thank you, Keith.
No problem.
So yeah, my education is a little bit different than Mark. I graduated from high school. I went to a community college for about a year and decided it wasn't for me. So I got my position in the refrigeration job and then moved up. So you don't necessarily have to have that 4-year to get to where you want to go. And I wanted a career, not just a job. I went through a lot of jobs. And I found Johnson Controls and I, you know, realized I could work from anywhere and I can work here till I retire. So it's definitely not just a job. It's a career for the long run.
Absolutely.
A lot of different opportunities.
Absolutely.
Can I add the one thing they have in common is that they're self-starters. And that's a huge part of our industry. The way Mark and I grew up, and probably Warren the same way, you can't kind of like, if they throw you into the water, and if you swim, somebody will grab you and start working with you. And if you sank, they kind of kicked you out. I don't think they don't do that anymore. You get more mentorship, more training versus let's see what this kid can do. So it's a kind of gentler approach now.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That's a great segue into our next question, which is intended for Keith as well. What job or jobs have you had in the HVAC field, and what are the responsibilities of each role?
Well, okay. All right. So first of all, my path was reverse of Mark. I got my undergraduate degree in mechanical engineering from NC State, and came out, and the class I hated most was control theory. And that's because I couldn't afford to buy an HP calculator. You guys probably don't know what that is. And it had these algorithms that do different differentiation for you. But I couldn't afford one, so I had to do everything by hand. I remember in undergrad to get out, I had to differentiate a 12-degree polynomial by hand, and everybody else had the calculator. And I was like, oh, well, whatever. So I hated that class. Long story short, I graduated, came out and looking for a job, and wound up working for Quadrango, which is like a developer in DC in their operations center. Met several folks from Siemens, JCI, Andover Rep. And I ended up working for an Andover Rep once I left there as a programmer. That basically I was programming the sequences for buildings for Montgomery County, actually. That was one of my first accounts I worked on. And they used a basic programming there. No, I'm sorry, it was Fortran. And then worked there for a year. The guy who I worked for left there, went to JCI. I followed him, joined JCI as a technician, worked in the field for about 2 years, which at first I was like, man, I don't know if I want to go into the field. That's just sweat and hard work because it was on the construction side. But you know what? That was probably one of the best experiences I ever had in my life. Because the stuff that you did on the computer, you really got to deal with in real life and gain a much stronger understanding of what you had to do to accomplish the goals that were set forth for you. Which actually, when I rolled out that road, I became an application engineer, which made me a better application engineer than my peers. And that was my favorite job. Of all the jobs I ever had in my life, application engineering was my favorite job. Even now, I can still say that, and Mark would probably say something similar, right? So left that road, enter into systems development, which is a combination of estimating and developing projects for owners and other clients. Did that for several years, moved into sales. While I was in sales, I got my master's degree. Did construction sales, which became very valuable to my clients who were mechanical contractors as we worked through projects together. This was at the advent when we started seeing smart technology popping onto unitary equipment, and nobody could ever figure out how do you truly integrate this stuff together. So ergo, that's where I came in, right? Mm-hmm. And we did a lot of projects where we were doing integration. And just take a step back. Integration basically is taking a lot of disparate systems that you have out there, bringing them into one platform and making it all work there where it seems like it's seamless to the end user. So that's what we call integration. Yeah. So did that for several years, moved into owner sales. From there, I got tired of selling, which again, this is a beautiful industry because you can literally decide on what you want to do. And I became a service manager, did that for a few years, left JCI, went over to Carrier as a market manager where I ran my own P&L. And strangely enough, my current manager reached back out over to me because he worked with me over at Carrier and brought me back to JCI as the branch service manager, where now we have close to 90 mechanics and technicians and a huge portfolio of customers. And growing. And growing. We're still looking to hire more people. We're talking about that literally before we got here. But I'll say my second favorite job is the one I have right now. Because I enjoy working with people and growing the business. And then healthy conversations with Mark about how fast we want to grow.
I give him the problem to hire more people.
And just working with clients who honestly, they don't know what they don't know. And we have to constantly educate them on how to run their building. They no longer have their own in-house staff to run their building. So now they're relying upon us to help them. And we got to use technology. We can't hire enough people to do everything in person. So we have to use technology to satisfy their needs and meet their goals. Mm-hmm. And that's the big shift now.
Big.
That's great.
I can add one more.
Sure, absolutely.
You hear sales, right? I've been on the technical side and on the sales side, and Keith has, and I'll tell you that Katie can say she sells every day also, because every time you have an interaction or a conversation with your customer, whether it's, residential in your home and you're talking to an homeowner, or you're in a commercial building talking to a property facility manager, you're the face of whatever company you're working for. And you have a product in your service that you're providing. And as much as, we sitting up here being in a management tier, whether it's sales focused, service focused, or, or organizational focus, The frontliner, which would be the people in the field, are the company's face. You are the services. You're selling yourself. You know, you're providing a service, and you can also sell as you're there. And in a lot of industries, especially in the residential market, they give the technicians incentive to sell equipment, to sell parts, to sell, you know, upsell the, you know, the situation, which means extra money for you and your family. You know, if you get in on the install and construction side in the residential market, they do what they call piecemeal work, which means as many as units that you can install in a day. So let's say you do 4 or 8 units in a day, you get paid a lump sum per unit. So you're not getting paid by hourly, you're getting paid, you know, per unit, $1,200 per unit or $2,000 per unit, depends on the tons. So, you know, when I was in South Florida, I ran for East Coast Mechanical, I ran 18 box trucks, and we were doing $2.1 million worth of residential install per month. And some of the technicians that were in our teams doing that were making 200, 300,000 a year because they were very good at what they were doing. So the industry opens up in a lot of different ways to do a lot of different things. So that's one thing you can say about HVAC, residential versus commercial. There's so many different things you can do and what you're good at.
And just want to tell you guys this. So when I did come into the industry, it was very white. The industry is not as white as it used to be, especially in the DMV. We don't have the luxury of being biased. Okay, that goes out the window for the business. There's not enough people to replace the folks who are retiring. So if you're looking for an environment where people are going to treat you for who you are and not by the color of your skin, you probably want to look here.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's a definite truth today. So much different. And the same thing for women. I mean, this is such an industry that is so wide open, and the women who come in this industry land up making more money than the men. I'll tell you that right now, especially in the residential market. And it's because they know how to sell themselves, and they know that they want the quality of the work that they're putting their name on to be there. And I think that's a big key that we have today over when I got in this industry, and you're 100% correct. I mean, it was, you know, it's changed. So, you know, unfortunately, it took a long time to happen, but it's happening.
Yeah.
That's great. That's awesome. The next question is for Warren. So Warren, you just started it off. So this next question is for you. What do you like about the field, and what are some of the biggest challenges?
Probably the thing I like, and I've been in every phase of this industry from every area that you can possibly think of. The one thing about being in the field, when you finish doing a job and you have that customer back up and running, you know, or you've solved their problem, let's say they're not, maybe they weren't down, but maybe there were some things that they weren't happy about. When you finish that and you're proud of what you did and the customer respects you, and that's probably the biggest thing that I see of what you like about the industry. The part I like about the industry probably most, and this is what caused me to fall in love with this industry, was I had to understand electricity. I had to understand plumbing. I had to understand heat transfer. You know, I had to understand what humidity and noise and all these different things. And when you're able to start putting that stuff together and you realize what you're doing to help the people, it's just a very rewarding job. So, you know, as the challenges to this industry, yes, you know, the air conditioner is going to break down and that roof's going to be 110 degrees, you know, and depending on the type of roof you might be on, it might even be warmer. Depending on the type of equipment you're working on, it could be a lot tougher. You know, to me, whether it's residential, commercial, it doesn't make any difference. Like I said, I've worked in every phase of this industry, from ammonia to what we have today. And now I'm seeing ammonia coming back, you know, and, you know, so there are so many different things about this industry that if I really fell in love with a particular area, And I said, I really enjoy this control systems. I really like the integrating of this stuff to make it work, whether it's the lights coming on, whether it's the temperature in the room, whatever it might be. One of my jobs I had many years ago when I was quite young was to sit in an operating room while they were doing heart surgery, maintaining the refrigeration system that kept the blood at a certain temperature and the room at a temperature so that the doctors would not sweat, And when I left there, people would say to me, oh, that had to be gory. I said, I felt so good coming out of there that for the next 2 weeks, I kept checking with the people that I learned at the hospital to find out how that person did, and it just so many different things that you can move into. So when I listen to this panel here talk, they're right. I dropped out of college. I said, this is not for me. And I landed up in this industry and went to work for a major manufacturer. And 2 years into the manufacturing, the next thing I knew, I was in Spain, opening up a new manufacturing plant, training their people on the equipment that they're going to be using, that they're producing, not the manufacturing equipment, but, so there's just so many opportunities here. And, when I was listening to them, and I ran this off this morning for a client of mine, because I do some work. And this is just here in the DC area, and I got to read this, okay? Here's one company, all right, HVAC technician. These are only residential companies. $80,000 to $130,000, signing bonus, company truck, all the things you can possibly think of, bonuses, commissions, signing bonuses, tips, you name it. There's another residential company, $50,000 to $100,000, all right? This is their qualifications: 3 years in the HVAC industry, driver's license, CFC license, which is really not the correct technology term for it, but for us, we know what CFC is. Most of these people will never understand. And a Maryland HVAC license, whether it's a journey person or a master's, And then the next company, 75 to 150,000. All of these are full-time employment, with a list of what they get, and you can get a $5,000 signing bonus. I might leave here and try that. and this one here is $65,000 to $100,000. Also, with all these things, and
I'll take this.
you take the hit. Yeah, we'd be on the top end of the scale now, if not better than this. So, there's just nothing about this industry. If I don't like this phase, I can try working towards another phase. If you don't like the controls, they're just talking controls. JCI does a little bit more than just controls and things, But, the person that's looking at the computer is not the same person, or cannot be the person that, they have to call somebody else to go out there and say, this is what the computer's saying, but you got to take care of it. So,
Most definitely.
yeah.
That's like an amazing way to come to the conclusion of our first segment. And I think I will be signing up for one of those positions. I need the training first. I see. Okay.
We got the
Classes
lab,
are
we got,
all
the- we
full
got the
right now.
labs here, and if you go to the right person at the college, you won't even have to pay a penny.
There you go. So at this time, we will open up the floor to our Q&A. So Cheryl, would you mind coming on up and assisting our students?
That was so good, everyone.
That was fantastic. That's the right direction. I think we just have to grab. Yeah.
Just grab one of those, that pop right out.
And while Cheryl is walking over to in person, if you'd like to ask a question, I can share our first question.
Absolutely.
Online.
Testing.
So Diego Calderon goes to Watkins Mill High School and asks, how do we get the opportunity to join in this industry at Montgomery College?
Well, I think I can help on that one.
Just share this mic too.
Okay. I think I can help with that one. If you go to Watkins Mills, we have 2 schools that already have some HVAC in there. I don't know what grade you're in. Okay. One's North County and Edison High School, which is at Wheaton. They have it. Seneca Valley is the north one. And, but depending, you can look online and get online and look at our qualifications and everything, or speak to one of us here at the, I don't know why I'm saying one of us, speak to us at the college and we'll be able to guide you on the right track and everything. So if you want, I'll be more than happy to give you the phone number that lands up at my desk sometimes. All right, and that's 790, what's it, 240-567 or, all right, 7, all right, and what's Eric's number? Eric's, or do you want to go to you?
Oh, no. So I
Yeah,
don't know.
we'll find out for you and we'll get to you. Yeah, but there's a lot of opportunities either through the public school system, which we do work with. All right, and especially in the construction trades or going right to Montgomery College's website.
Could I add to that? And Warren gave a very good answer. I want to give a simple addition to this. I'm Stuart Tart. I work in the advancement office at Montgomery College. And we've set up a we have a phone number and an email address if you want to enroll in the HVAC programs at Montgomery College. The phone number is 240-567-4050. And the email address is hvac@montgomerycollege.edu. So please contact our people.
That's great. Awesome. Any other
Are
questions?
there any questions from the floor? I don't know if this is working. Can you?
Is it working?
But I
Should be.
a cheerleader voice, so there you go. Anyone have questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
Touch base on you were talking about biases, right? So aside from skin color, what about like felony convictions or like markings on your skin? Like, you think that would be prevented? Like prevent you from achieving a job?
So I'll say this as far as tattoos and things like that, I mean, that's not an issue. There's a lot of technicians, mechanics that have tattoos and things like that. As far as convictions and things like that, it's from a company by company basis. So there are some companies that are okay with it. There are others that are not. You just got to know who you're dealing with.
And also it depends if you are assigned to a particular site, they do background checks, the security clearance of some of the sites as well. So that all depends on, I guess, what site you're at and where you're going to be dispatched that day. But we generally do a basic background check. But if there is felonies and things like that, it's typically, it depends. It all depends.
Right. And then as far as, having a criminal background and everything, it would determine whether you're on a construction site versus a service type business. And a lot of times, you could become a welder in the union. And I've personally got friends who have felonies that have made a lot of money over the years as a welder, working construction, no problems whatsoever.
It's also somewhat on a state by state basis. So certain license requirements might have a part in it that says something about a conviction. The key here is to be very upfront when you do your job application or when you're being interviewed, tell them about it and don't hesitate. Give them all the information that you want to give them, but be straight with them. Because again, they might be able to hire you and say, okay, well, unfortunately, we can't let you go to this job site, but we could use you here, and, I know that we're doing a lot of fighting on state by state basis to get rid of that conviction part that might prevent you from getting a license. So just be very upfront. And as far as tattoos and everything, most companies will overlook it. Sometimes they will ask you to button up your shirt, depending on what you have as a tattoo, or wear a long sleeve shirt, depending on the type of customer you're going into, because remember, you're the face of the company, but you're the one taking care of that customer and you don't want anything that turns them off, So, I know a lot of technicians out there that have tattoos that as long as it's kept covered up, because some of the things are not really great for people, that would they be happy with.
So the folks online have asked me to use the mic as well so they can hear the question. So Jake Noble is looking to come to MC and asks, when is our next chance to get started with the HVAC program?
think that's,
Well,
that might be an ed question.
Yeah, we're coming to the end of the semester. In fact, next week is the last day of classes and final exams the week after that. We do have summer classes going in first and second summer session, which will start around the 1st of June, end of May. I don't remember the exact date, but you can look online and you can see, and we do have some HVAC classes scheduled.
Thanks, Ed.
Like Lucille
That whole
Ball. You know what I'm talking about, right? It's gonna keep coming out. Okay, anyone else?
I can't believe people from Jerry's class would not have questions.
Anything about their background that you know, anything particular? Oh, that's about something. I said that, but I was wild when you said how much you made in the 90s. That's just amazing.
Could I point out something too?
Yes.
Just real quick, you can say, well, I just thought I should remind everybody, of course, we do have tuition, you have to pay for the classes, but we have scholarship money, and a lot of it goes begging, you know, not to the people. I mean, it sits there waiting for somebody to take it. So keep that in mind. If money is the issue, please contact us and we can turn you on to some scholarship money.
And you can contact, you know, we have a lot of industry money out there too. You know, Women in HVAC has a very good scholarship program. The Reese Foundation, which is part of the industry's association for the manufacturers, they have money. PHCC, the plumbing, heating, cooling contract. There's a lot of money out there, scholarship money to get you started. And if we can get you placed with a company that has an apprenticeship program, that's the other key.
So I did have a question for the panelists. Keith, I really appreciated your story about the class that didn't work for you and knowing why. Although I was a bit touched by your situation of saying it's because you didn't have the calculator. I'm the director of the college's academic coaching program, and we're co-hosting today. We have two of our academic coaches here if they want to wave, Cheryl Johnson and Sarah Bluth in the back. And one of the things we do is support students in helping them to have access to the resources they need and how to succeed in classes. We would have gotten you a calculator. But my question for the panelists is, what advice would you have for students who are looking to get started? How can they find mentors in the field? How can they learn more if they're not quite ready to take that step into HVAC and they want to just get some support?
So there's two ways you can look at it, right? The first one is if you're in high school, reach out to your guidance counselor. They may know somebody in their network that's in various fields. That's the one piece. And they'll connect you. The other one is if you're still struggling, if you're like now, if you're out of high school and you're trying to figure out what to do, and if you're here, that means Montgomery College has something for you. So you can reach out to the folks at Montgomery College, or I'm thinking it's just mostly Montgomery College people anyway. Reach out to them so they can help you and guide you along the way. The other option is if you are still don't have that, then you can reach out to the local 602. They have some awesome folks there. And I know I grew up with one of them, Jim Baldus, and he'll talk to you. Chris Modello, those guys, they are awesome. And I'll tell you this, because when I was a market manager, I worked in Baltimore. The local in Baltimore and the local in DC are completely different. Okay. 602 understands where the industry is going, and they understand what kind of people they need. So reach out to those folks, call them up, they'll take care of you. So those are my options.
Also, the deadline for this year for applying is coming up.
Yeah. So 602 is the local union that services the DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia. It covers Montgomery County, Prince George's County, Southern Maryland, DC, and Northern Virginia, including Winchester, I believe. Yeah. That's what that covers. And they have a training school. They have 2 training schools, one in Almore Arkwick Road, which actually it's a campus. They have 5 buildings. And then they have one in Northern Virginia because they understand that they're not going to have folks who work in Northern Virginia and live in Northern Virginia always driving across the bridge to go to school in Prince George's County. It just doesn't make sense. So they want to make it more accessible.
Yeah, you can come here. If you contact Montgomery College, they'll find one of us to help mentor you getting into it, whether it's the instructor that these students that are sitting here has, Jerry Williamson, myself, Ed. If he gets Ed, he'll always find one of us in the industry. There's a handful of us that are always looking to mentor people and help people.
And applications for next fall are open right now, but they're going to be closing. I believe it's the end of May. I'm not sure, because then they do interviewing. You're going to have to pay $50, I think it is, to take an assessment test. And then you'll have to interview with folks. And they have about 800 apprentices in the program, over 800 apprentices in their program. It's a 5-year program. And they've also, if you listen to WTOP News, they're advertising on there all the time, as well as Local 20.
Yeah, that's Chris. That's Chris. Yeah, I was like, oh, that's Chris.
So they in the past years, they used to have a lot of applicants they have usually about 200 to 250 first-year apprentices. But they also, I don't know what the number is now. I haven't heard it for a while, but I remember when they used to cut the applications off at 12 or 1,300 applications. Because they knew they could get their people from that. So it doesn't, put your hat into the ring, take the test, and remember, you spend that $50 for the test, and that's the last penny you'll spend for your education. And you'll be making a great living. So apprenticeship is the best model out there, and they're not. And 602 is not the only apprenticeship model. If you talk to contractors right out the get-go, when you go out and look for a job, the chances are good that they'll want to put you in an apprenticeship program. And then there is always Montgomery College, of course, but we're just a start. The apprenticeship is what you want to really do.
Right. To add to that, I mean, if you're driving down the road and you look, you'll see service vans out there, and they'll say helpers wanted. And what I've always encouraged, call the number, go out, interview with that company. Say, hey, I'm interested in HVAC. I'd like to come in and talk to you. That's the easiest way to learn the industry. You don't have to go in and accept that position, but they're going to educate you to what they're looking for in the industry, and call a bunch of numbers of a bunch of different companies. And just one, it'll give you the experience of what they're looking for. It'll give you the experience of presenting yourself to a employer, and you're going to learn the industry. And then if you decide to accept a helper position, you're going to be learning from people that are in the trade. And then you can sit there and you can learn, on the equipment, looking at the equipment. And as a helper, you're not going to be turning wrenches. You're going to be kind of helping, handing tools, and helping and assisting on a job. And then as you're doing that, you can say, what, I really like this because I'm watching, the journeymans and the technicians and the people work. And then you can say, what, I really want to go there. So, and take that step, because helpers currently right now, you can instantly step out making anywhere between $13 to $20 an hour, depending on what job site you're working on.
I want to touch on that because I want to correct them just a little bit. Okay, and where my correction is, if you call and say, I see you're looking for a helper, I was really looking for an apprenticeship and to get into this industry, let them know that you're really interested. Helper is a terrible word that we use. Okay, it's an entrance level position. So I really like to use the word. I was looking really to get into an apprenticeship or learn the industry. I wasn't really looking for helper, and you'll be surprised how that will open up the ears to some of those people.
Just one thing that I know we're talking about assertiveness, and I want to talk to the introverts because I know you're out there. It's okay for you to get somebody to initially help you to get moving, because I know it's going to be hard on you, right? Because that's out of your comfort zone. So just grab that person to help you through that initial process to get you to talking to somebody, and from there you should be able to move on, because one of the biggest things in our industry is self-starters. And being a self-starter and being an introvert are two different things.
Okay, great. So we're going to move on to our second segment of our discussion today, which is really what most of you are interested in, is how to get started. I think we've already started that discussion with some of the comments that we've heard so far. So I'm going to address this question to Katie. What types of positions exist in the field? I know we've touched on some of this already, in addition to those already discussed. This is a two-part question. And why is it important to be a lifelong learner in the HVAC field?
So the different positions, there's an array of different positions, especially in our company. Like I said, I started out as a dispatcher, which is an entry-level position, and then I moved up to more so like a contracting specialist. And now I'm a service manager. I have to think about that for a second. But there is, if you don't necessarily want to go in the field, there is other opportunities. There is project management, sales, an array of leadership positions. And that's what I thrive off of. So that's where I probably will stay till I retire, honestly. Working with the guys, things of that nature. But there's the apprenticeship, there's mechanical side, there's the technical side, which is more of the logging into the computers and working with the computer side of it. You're not necessarily turning wrenches every day as a mechanic would do. What am I missing? Anything else? I think I went through all of them.
Yeah, there's some other pieces of our business that we can
Yes.
transfer in, like Mike Niedermeyer is about to do.
Okay, so yeah, and then also a technical team lead. Thank you, Keith. Which basically is almost like a foreman position. There is foremans as well through the union school. If you are on the union side of things, if you're non-union, there would be a technical team lead. He's basically like a leader for your service team that you're on. And that's what we're kind of molding into my skill sets for security right now. But there is, I mean, any position you go to, you're always going to learn more. There's always going to be something new to learn with technology, or just with moving on with your career. There's always a step up that you can take. What was the second part? Let's see.
Why is it important to be a lifelong learner in the HVAC field?
Okay. To me, at least, I'm not really into the technical side of things. I'm more in the leadership, customer service, things of that nature. But to me, it would be learning, I guess, will never, it will never end. There's always going to be something you can learn. Keep an open mind. I learn from my supervisor every day, new things in my customers and my employees. There's new technology. I'm constantly taking classes to learn more on the technical side of thing and the leadership side of the business as well. So to me, that's huge, is to keep an open mind, never just say, oh, I know everything now. It's never going to end. When you retire, you're still going to be learning. So to me, it's just keep an open mind, always be willing to learn a new skill set or anything on your side of your skill set. But that's all I got.
Okay. We've heard the term apprenticeship quite a bit throughout this session, and I would like to kind of like unpack that just a bit more. Warren, would you mind explaining how does that work? How does an apprenticeship work?
Okay, well, apprenticeship basically is where you're doing on-the-job training and you're getting related training. So, so apprenticeship is where you're learning maybe daily on the job from people you're working with, and you're getting the backup and everything else you need in the related training in a classroom. That's the normal way, and it's usually anywhere from a 4 to 5 year program with, people working 2,000 hours a year, 8,000 hours to get certain things. And in all of our programs, whether it's the union or the non-union, that's an approved apprenticeship program. After 4 years and 8,000 on the job at training hours and a certain amount of related training, you automatically can apply for your journey person's license without sitting for the test, which is a big deal here in Maryland. And it's, so, but the real thing about apprenticeship is to learn on the job and in the classroom so that you know exactly what you need to know. And there's a number of students sitting in here in this room right now who will tell you they've gone through electrical, they're going to go through a whole lot of different things of related training, and they will see the real world out there. So, that's more of a standard program. Some of the other apprenticeship programs was where you're in school for so many hours a week and being trained and having the hands-on also at the school, and then you move on. So there's a couple of different ones out there. The key to the whole apprenticeship program, no matter how you want to look at it, is you're being paid to learn. That's the key. You're being paid to learn, and you're coming out with a good job and usually no debt, and any of you ask your parents what their debt was, or if they're still in debt, which most of them are, it's really the way to go. And I don't know if there's any better way to explain it at this point. I don't know if Keith or Mark.
The only piece that I add in there is with the on the job, it's inherently you will have a mentor.
Yeah.
Inherently, it's built into the apprenticeship program. And that person persons will help you grow in the industry over that 4 or 5 year period, depending on which type of apprenticeship program you're entering into.
Great. This question is for Keith. Benefits are an important aspect of any profession. So I'd like to find out a little bit more, and I imagine our audience might be interested in this as well. What are benefits usually like in the HVAC field? What does that look like?
So we gotta dissect this a little bit, right? Because there is the union and then it's non-union. If you're in the union, it doesn't matter what company you work for. You're gonna be paid, your benefits are you're gonna get your dental, you're gonna get your health insurance, you're gonna get your pension. And then you have the ability to do a 401k within the union. Now, that doesn't include the ability to do a 401k with a company. Okay, so let's take a step back. A 401k. All right, let me, because I'm talking as if you know what that is. So the 401k is basically a program in which you contribute a certain amount of money into a mutual fund, and then your company matches that. And after a certain period of time, all that money belongs to you that you can then, and it's tax-free. So then you'll have the ability to withdraw that money once you hit retirement age. Okay, that's the 401k. It's different from what they call the IRA, which you do it after taxes, and the ability to withdraw is a lot easier than with the 401k. So when I say health insurance, doesn't include dental. That's a separate piece. It covers your basic, when you're going to see a physician or any type of illness such as that. And then dental, we all know what that is. Half of us don't like going there. So we all know how to deal with that. So those are the basic things that come with the union package. And then if you're non-union, like our controls technicians are, you still have those same benefits, but it varies from company to company when you go non-union, and they may be more or less of what's offered by the union.
Yeah, let me read this one from one of the applicants here, one of the lists here. So this one's listing its benefits are health saving account, disability insurance, health insurance, dental insurance, 401k, flexible spending account, paid time off, parental leave, employee assistance program, vision insurance, 401k matching,
Right.
the matching part of it, employee discounts, professional development assistance, and most companies will pay for all professional development.
Yeah.
You know, they're saying here fuel discount, which I guess if you use your own vehicle, most of these companies will give you a vehicle. But apparently they must have a fuel discount program that you can, flexible schedule, life insurance, referral programs, retirement plans. Okay. And when I look at the others, there's, you know, maybe
About the
not
same
quite
thing.
as much, but
Yeah.
So there's a lot out there. And, you know, talking about 401k, I'm a retired person. All right. I have to take a minimum benefit because of my age out of my 401k. Okay. I don't really need to because I've made such a great living over all these years and everything. And I still do a number of other things that personally I would prefer leaving some of it in there, but the law says I have to take it out. So
Good problem to have.
yeah.
Or
it's
it can stop
it's a good
paying
problem.
you.
Huh?
So it can stop paying you and get work for free, right?
Absolutely not. Ed's had me for 30 years free. Now I cost them.
Mark shared that that's a good problem to have. I
Yeah.
heard that it's a very
Yeah.
good problem to have.
Absolutely.
So we're going to move on to a bit more of a fun activity. So I know we've heard quite a bit about how to get started, and quite a few things were covered today, but there may be some additional things that we have not heard yet. So in 60 seconds or 1 minute or less, this question is for each of the panelists. So share with us any other advice for students going into the field. So we're going to start with Warren. Warren, you're on.
Well, I'm going to do it real quick. Look at a technical trade to look into, whether it's HVAC or any of the other trades that are out there. This is the real world. And you'll see, like here, all right, this is a career opportunity that won't go away. So, you know, take advantage of it. Okay, because you can always go to college, you can always get a 4-year degree, you can always get your doctorate or whatever else, or some people who really want to go for a tougher way to go to life. So, you know, that's all I have to really say is that, you know, hey, it's there, do it.
So the question again?
The question is, any other advice for students going into the field? Something that, you know, maybe we didn't touch upon, or something you may want to emphasize that we did cover?
Yeah. Don't quit. Don't quit on yourself. You know, don't look at, say, I can't do that. Don't let fear stop you from taking the first step into an industry and into a technical field that can change your life. You know, it just takes the first step, takes believing in yourself. I will tell you, there were some things when I sat down and, you know, the Air Force handed me a book this thick and they said, okay, here it is. And I opened it up. Okay. Physics, interesting. Heat transfer, awesome. You know, and I didn't quit. You know, and every week I had to take a test. And if I failed the test, I was going to get, you know, kicked out of the program and get discharged from the Air Force. So a little bit of pressure, you know, but I didn't quit and I kept going. And today, you know, I've been able to raise 3 beautiful children, make a really good living. And honestly, I don't feel like I work a day of my life because I enjoy what I do. And that's the most important thing, you know, waking up, knowing that you're going to make a difference, because in HVAC, you heard it a couple times on the panel. It's comfort. You're taking care of people. You're making them comfortable. You're making their surroundings comfortable, right? How many's ever been in a room where they were hot? Not pleasurable. How many's ever been in a room where they're cold? Not pleasurable. But you're making that situation comfortable for that person or that group of people. And it's very rewarding. So that's what I actually enjoy.
Yeah. Definitely rewarding. I wake up every morning. I love my job. I love working with all my guys and girls. And with the customers, I have a lot of large hospitals that I deal with every day. So having that positive impact on not just my customers, but most importantly, the patients there. That's very invigorating for me. So I would, to all you in the room, I would definitely say set goals, because that's what I do. I still do that every day. I set goals for my week, my month, my year. Take advantage of the career opportunities that you have. Like they said, get paid while you're learning. That's huge. And then just manage your time, manage your money. That will help you through the process. And just be positive.
Wow. Okay. So I'm just gonna piggyback, and you guys probably picked it up a little bit. I'm a little bit philosophical at times. So I'll say that each day you need to look back on what you did that day and what you did great and what you can improve upon. I'm big on planning, but I'm also big on living in the moment. So Katie, I know I've already asked her, what's your 3-year plan? What's your 5-year plan? And let's see where you want to be. She's telling me this is where she wants to be. And I'm just like, yeah, let's just plan for the future a little bit more. And what that may look like for you. For you, right now, you're thinking, I just want to find a job. But what I'm saying to you is, let's just not find a job. Let's develop your career and where you want to be in 5 years or 10 years. Do you want to be sitting in my seat in another 10 or 15 years? Where do you want to be? Let's think through that, okay? And how can you benefit your society in the role that you play in the job that you have? That's what I would say.
Could I add one thing?
Absolutely.
One thing that was mentioned, Stuart, a couple of times there. I've worked myself in the construction world, but I've been around technical education and training for the world for a very long time. And I had a father-in-law who was involved in construction as a contractor, put water and sewer lines in Prince George and Montgomery County for WSSC. And one of the things I learned early on is that everybody that does this kind of work loves to take their family to a job they just finished.
Yep.
So I put the HVAC system in that building. Riding around the county with my father-in-law was a trip down every job he ever had. And he said, oh yeah, we hit rock over there. I had to get dynamite. I mean, give me all the details. You can show people what you do. There aren't many jobs in the world you can do that. You can drive past something and say, oh, man, I helped put that air conditioning system in there. You can see the results of your labor. And it's a lot different than sitting in an office and pushing some paperwork around. And you're doing a job that's important, but you don't have the evidence of it. And that's one thing that I noticed everybody, and the phrase, we had a graduate say this at one of our commencement ceremonies, one of our HVAC apprenticeship scholars. He said, if you find something you like to do, you will never work another day in your life. And that's true. So this is a great field to work in. The whole construction industry, I think, is, but particularly the skilled area where you can really make an accomplishment and provide people the comfort and all those things. There are a lot of things out of this that you don't see in other kinds of work.
Just like Ed said, Montgomery College a number of years ago had this saying that said there was endless possibilities. And that's definitely true of our industry.
100%.
Great. Thank you. So that concludes the second portion of our panel discussion, but it opens the floor for questions from our guest and our, Nick is, there's some burning questions on the virtual, with the virtual audience. So Cheryl, please come on up and assist with our.
Thank you. So Brian is very interested in the apprenticeships. And while y'all were talking, I looked on the Steamfitters website. We dropped the link into the chat, and it looks like the apprenticeships might have closed for the year. What should folks be doing in order to be looking more into an apprenticeship or being prepared? What's Brian's next step?
Brian's next step is to call the union.
Yeah.
Call them because they're still placing people with organizations. Yeah, so Brian's step is to call the union. Because what's happening now is, even though the apprenticeship program may be closed, what's open is, Warren hates the word helper, right? Yeah. So we're going to say entry-level position. Okay, so there's a lot of entry-level positions, and here's the little secret about this thing. People will use the entry-level position in order to sponsor people into the apprenticeship program the following year. So what ends up happening is you get that first year, depending when you come in, that first year and a half of work experience, doing what you're told. You got to be a good listener and a good follower at this point in your life, in this career. Listen and follow what you're being told by the journeyman and your project manager or service manager. And if you're doing a good job, it's your longest interview you'll be on in your life. It's going to be a whole year. And if you get through that year, they'll say, go take this test. I'll write the letter of recommendation for you. You pass the test, you get into the apprenticeship program, and then you go from being a entry-level position to an apprentice. That's what you do.
Yeah, and I think there's others too. That's one way. Another way is come here to college, look at some of our classes, contact local contractors that we have in the area, find out if they're part of an apprenticeship program and are they looking for entrance level people. And you'd be surprised. And, you know, the one thing I will say, and that is, and I've known this from the apprenticeship program that I've been involved with for many years, we used to lose a number of apprentices from our program in the first year. And at first it used to bother me. Then I found out that a group of them landed up at 602. And even though I wasn't a union contractor, it made me feel good that they stayed in their industry. So, you know, there's a lot of opportunities there. Again, ask for some of us to be mentors would be more than helpful. And, you know, whatever we can do, we need people in this industry. You need to look into getting into something that'll be a career opportunity for the rest of your life. You can ask my family, they will tell you it's a very good career. They've lived very nicely because of it.
Could you please explain the difference between the certificate and a degree for a career standpoint?
I guess that's really a tough question because, you know, I'm kind of sitting in here for Jerry, who probably could have answered that question a whole lot better. But, you know, a certificate gets you started. And if you want to go into a degree program, there's lots of opportunities to go into degrees. We have some articulation agreements with other locations to bring you further along. You know, if you'd like to speak to me afterwards, I can tell you because I have a cheat sheet here to work from.
From a hiring manager's point of view, the degree brings the ability to negotiate more hourly wage from a certificate to a degree. It gives you more seniority, let's say, in the application list. So if I'm looking at applications and I see a certificate and then I see associate's degree in HVAC or electronics, it helps put you in a tier in a skill set. So getting a degree always helps, but in the hiring pace today, a certificate's definitely not going to hurt you because we need people in the industry.
Ed should be able to answer a little bit better about the difference between the two programs here.
Yeah, I have a slightly different perspective. The difference between a certificate and a degree is 22 credits of general education. That's really the difference. And I was thinking of this when we were talking about the apprenticeship and things like that. If you don't see a truck with an opportunity, helper's job, or you don't get into an apprenticeship program, and some of you are already doing this, one of the things about taking the classes here is that you get a little bit of a closer connection to the industry. You start hearing about things because some of your fellow classmates are already working in the HVAC world. But if you show your initiative by coming and taking some classes in HVAC here, and then you go out, you're not just a complete starter, you've already got some credits under your belt. And that shows the initiative to get the education you need to be able to survive in that industry. So I would tell you, I've been in higher education, not just my 30 years here, but I've worked at other colleges as well. And ever since the 60s, the college degree has been oversold, because we just said, go to college and get a degree. We didn't say anything about what areas you ought to get a job in. And that's really the big difference, because there's a lot of college graduates that don't ever get jobs in their fields. They don't exist. But showing the initiative and getting the training here and these things can lead another perspective in trying to get that first position. And then many of those other employers, remember that the difference between the union and the other apprenticeship is that contractors work with the union to get their labor force. In the open shop areas, they get the job first and the employer puts them in the apprenticeship program. It's a different cycle, different way to do it. And getting the education here and starting your education here, by the way, I meant to say, can actually get you into that first opportunity a little bit quicker sometimes than the other. Most people that come here never, ever get, I could count on my hand we haven't had it 30 years in the building, but 25 years we've had HVAC in the building. And I could probably count on one hand the number of people that got degrees. But it would take me a lot of hands to count all the people that got jobs.
There's a student who has a follow-up question that's really relevant, and he is willing to unmute and ask it from home. So Diego, do you want to unmute and ask your question of the panelists directly? So Diego says it won't let him unmute. So let me see if I can ask you to unmute, Diego. Thanks for everyone's patience. It has been really great. We've had about 15 different folks coming along who've been able to ask their questions. But Diego actually has two questions. So Diego, or did it unmute? Are you able now, Diego? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
You guys hear me? All right, I'm gonna turn my camera on too as well if you want. So I actually have a few questions. The first question is like, what is the median income of someone coming into this industry? Another question is like, how long does it take to attain like a HVAC certification or a degree? And my last question would be like, what is like some fundamental knowledge like you would have to like be successful in like the HVAC industry?
How long does it take to earn this certificate?
That's a loaded question, okay? So when you say certificate, that's their program, Montgomery County's program, which is how many hours?
60 hours, 30 hours. Is it 23 for the certificate, but 60 for the degree? I think
23,
Diego mentioned
right.
the degree as well.
So it's regarding the degree, you heard the 60 hours. And then the part about being successful. It's how do you measure success? And the way I'm going to answer this question is really about you. Do you measure success in being able to take care of yourself and take care of your family? Or you measure success of how far can you climb an organizational ladder? Two different things, okay? So if you're looking at yourself as being successful and taking care of yourself and your family, you do that right away, right? And your salary continues to go up with the more knowledge and experiences you have. If you're looking to either start your own business or climb the ladder, that's a different story. And if you're looking at corporate America, the more education you have, the more experiences and showing that you can get things done varies. Okay, so for me, where I'm sitting right now, I could have been a lot higher. I chose not to do that. I chose to take care of my family first because they didn't want to move away from Washington, D.C. They wanted to stay here, and just looking back when it made the right decision. So I kind of slowed my career down because I had two boys who were highly intelligent, and I said, let me put my energy into them. And they're awesome. And then now it's like, you know what? I think I'll speed it up again. So I want you to look at success as relative to what you want and not from what the world may think it is.
That's a great question. Great answer.
And he wants to know about the money.
We can look at income, and I can talk to you about a different income and everything. We had this brochure that is here at the college and everything, where it's showing that, how many job postings there were in September of 21, which now you can add a whole lot more than that. And it's showing that the average starting salary after you've taken a number of classes being about $47,000. You know, it might be a little less, it might be more, depending on what your capabilities of what you've learned and where you want to start or who you're working for. So, I mean, you know, again, it depends on where you're at, how much effort you want to put into it, how many classes you want to attend, how do you continue your education, and you just keep moving up. So, you know, again, if you get into an apprenticeship program, you're earning money while you're in a class. There's really, it's a terrible question for us to answer because I don't think we really have a total answer for that, depending on who you go to work for.
The union, it's a 5-year program. So after 5 years, then you graduate and you become a journeyman. So that would be 5 years. The journeyman's license, correct? But that's 5 years.
That 5th year.
Yes.
Way
Right.
there.
Oh, yeah.
And I had the blessed opportunity to start in the field as a mechanic and turning wrenches. And then I became a controls technician. And even as a mechanic and the skill set that you show and the professionalism you show in the industry, I was making $6 over scale. Okay, so just by how I was presenting myself, you know, to the company, how I was selling and working, and the company goes, hey, don't want to lose this technician. So they're like, we're going to bump your pay. We're going to bump your pay. Because, you know, the market currently right now, there's not enough people out there. So if you get in the industry and you show yourself as a professional and as a go-getter, you can pretty much ask what you want and they'll pay. And, you know, as long as you can deliver, you know, and that's the truth. When I was a 2nd-year apprentice, you know, in an apprenticeship program, and I was a helper, sorry, to get into this, had to. But as a 2nd-year apprentice, I was running a $1 million job chiller replacement in Fort Lauderdale at a Bell South building. You know, crane, lifting the chillers, you know, knocking out the wall, putting them in, you know, whole 9 yards, right? And that's as a 2nd-year apprentice, which kind of got me in trouble with the business agent, but a whole different other conversation. But if you've got the skill set and you want to push yourself to learn, the sky's the limit. And what you can learn and what you can make, you know, and what you want to do, you know, from turning wrenches to now I'm a sales manager managing 12 salespeople. You know, so there's a lot of places you can go.
Yeah, there's a lot of contractors out there that they might say, well, you're going to start at $21 an hour, and you show the incentive and everything. And because they need people, you might end up getting a raise right away. And, you know, it's what you're willing to do and what you're willing to show can make the big difference on what you'll end up being paid.
This has been such an amazing, oh, did you? I don't want to cut you off.
To me, I was like, okay, I'll take it.
There may be some additional questions to answer, but this has really been such an amazing afternoon, which with a real rich level of discussion. And I just want to, we've come to the end of our event, as much as I'd like to continue the conversation. But please join me with a warm thank you for this incredible panel that has just shared a wealth of knowledge with us this afternoon. This is incredible. I think we've all learned quite a bit. I know I'm walking away with a more expanded breadth of knowledge of our industry, of their industry. I'd also like to thank everyone who worked on pulling this event together. Thank you so much. I won't shout out everyone's name, but you certainly know who you are. And thank you again for working on this. This has been an incredible event. Our panelists, if they will indulge us for just a few minutes to answer questions, that maybe there's someone in the audience that didn't have an opportunity, or maybe there's an introvert in the audience that didn't ask a question. So we'd like to provide a few minutes for that as well. And in 5 minutes, If anyone is interested in a tour of the labs, maybe some of the folks in here already know what the labs look like, the HVAC labs, but Dean Roberts has offered to begin a tour of the HVAC labs if anyone is interested in participating in that in about 5 minutes. So thank you again to this incredible panel. Thank you so very much.
Okay.
Absolutely. Oh, there's another question. Oh.
Okay, so
Yeah.
good question.
I know we didn't go back and explain that. did we?
Yeah.
I know, right?
Yeah, so you've got air conditioning, refrigeration, right? Mechanical cooling that you would have in your house is a refrigeration process for cooling air. So a chiller basically takes that refrigeration process and it cools water. That water is circulated in a building to cool the air. It was, on my project, it was 1,000 ton and a 750 ton chiller. So a ton, is basically the capacity of being able to remove heat. So 12,000 BTUs is a ton.
Yeah, chillers come in so many different sizes and every, I've done some houses here in DC where I put chillers in the people's house.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. It's literally the same thing that. Yeah, they range based on the capacity. It's all based on capacity. Literally, a water cooler that you drink from is a chiller.
Yeah.
It basically, it's got a tube and tube, and you're chilling water for consumption, right? But you imagine that same water cooler larger, sending water out to an air handler to cool the air to feed this room.
All right, cool. And
Mhm.
another question was the engineering partnership, that's still the same, is that a situation or is that two different things?
So engineering, is toward a degree. So there's different levels that you can get in engineering where you can become an engineering technician, which is where you would go in this industry. Where my colleague down here, he's got a bachelor's in mechanical engineering. So he can go sit for a professional engineering exam and literally design systems, stamp it, and be the consultant engineer for a project. Where if you get into a engineering technician degree, you basically are technically applying the engineering principles to the field of your study, whether it's mechanical, electrical, or so on.
So the apprenticeship to engineering is still the same equivalent or is it stronger?
Oh, well, on the engineering side, you're going an academic path versus going a trade path where you're getting hands-on.
So the hands-on apprenticeship.
You have hands-on in the engineering technician side, but it's through the education path. Because the reason why I know a lot about it, because I was actually heading down the engineering technician path in my education.
You're still in the industry. It depends on what you want to do. Again, it's I had a mentee who came in and got his associate's degree in engineering technology. Actually, two. One chose to continue and got his bachelor's in mechanical engineering, took his PE. Now he works for ESCO. Well, I mean, it's a company that does energy savings.
Yeah.
And he manages a bunch of projects. And then another one, he still works for Johnson Controls, been there for 25 years. And he did application engineering, was a controls technician as well. And now he's managing our technician base, Jim Humans. And that's the route that he went. So it's a lot you can do.
Yeah.
It's so much. I mean, these 2 hours hour and a half we had here, we could have gone for another 3.
Yeah.
But it's so much there.
Right. And me going into HVAC, I've personally owned an electrical company. I've owned a union steam fitter mechanical company here in the DC area. I've owned a manufacturing company where we made stick, instead of stick build systems, We manufactured assemblies, you know, so you can imagine pumps and everything in an enclosure and shipping. So, you know, I decided, you know, when I was young and dumb, I decided to go out and take a lot of risk, you know, and it paid. I made a lot of money. I did a lot of things, you know, but it comes risk versus reward. And Keith touched on the thing. How do you measure yourself as successful? Chasing the dollar, owning, doing all that, or realizing you're missing your kids growing up, you know, and that's kind of changed my life. Oh, so it's heating, ventilating, air conditioning, you know, and then where you're missing is the /R. And so it's literally HVAC/R, refrigeration. Everything's the same. The only thing that happens between HVAC and refrigeration is your pressures and your temperatures slide to the lower scale.
The air conditioning's high temperature refrigeration is how we spec it, and then you can go low temperature.
So refrigeration,
you know,
would
medium
be
temperature, yeah.
cold storage for meat packing plants, that type of stuff, refrigerator.
Supermarkets.
We do refrigeration. You know, we actually go out and take care of restaurants, hotels, grocery stores. JCI does a lot of stuff, you know, from steam chillers to refrigeration, you know, you name it, anything to do with mechanical process cooling, JCI does it. Johnson Controls does it.
You can't have air conditioning without refrigeration.
Right. And that's key: install, replace, service, on and on. And we manufacture it also as products. We're an OEM.
So refrigeration came first. Willis Carrier created the first refrigeration system, and it became mobile. That's right. And so then this guy at York, he created the first standalone chiller. And he used what Willis Carrier did to create his standalone chiller.
What did Liebert do? Something from Carrier first.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
But it was from Carrier.
So Willis actually took the refrigeration system and developed that R500 system, which changed the temperature of the evaporator and made it an air conditioning system.
And when you really look at an air conditioning system, this is one thing that I wanted to kind of explain. When you buy a residential unit and you open it up, you've got a solid state processor computer control on it. And the only difference between that and a larger scale in a commercial building is the ability to modify it. That's it. So when you go and you're working on a Carrier, very sophisticated Carrier, or a Lennox, or a Train, or a York system being put into your house, that literally has computer controls in it, temperature. It's just at a very small scale. When you get into commercial and you get in and you look up here on the wall that's missing a cover, that's a Siemens thermostat, right? That's sensing temperature, and there's 3 of them in here. 3 of them in here because there's 3 different pieces of equipment that they control, supplying air to this one, right?
Switches, you're talking about switches control or the refrigeration?
So there's a difference between digital and analog controls. You know, what you would say conventional, which would be using low voltage contacts and turning things on and off. Computer generated that's literally taking temperature of the room, sending it to a computer that's interpolating the data, and then sending outputs to controllers, to valves, to whatever. Yeah, communication, yes, using that type of comm.
And that's what air conditioning systems do. They have
Exactly.
certain, in my house, I have a system that's all variable speed.
Yeah.
And it goes
Yeah,
from,
exactly.
14,200 to 39,000 BTUs.
Okay.
And it's a heat pump.
See how emotional they get when they talk about changing temperatures?
Yeah.
It's exciting.
It is.
So we're not in the elevator business.
I think they sold that.
Yeah, so that's a separate piece of the business. As so even United Technologies, which owned Otis, split up their company, and this really comes down to how businesses are being run and split off now. Before they thought bring it all together under one head, we can level things out, and now it's like let's be agile and quick and let's split all these businesses up so we can make some quick decisions on how we want to move the business forward. That's you go into a whole other piece of that of how things are managed.
Cool. I was just trying to break down the engineering.
Mhm.
So you don't have to get too deep in the fire department with all the controls.
See, that's another piece of the business,
That's-
right?
yeah. That's the
So
authority having
fire and security,
jurisdiction
we
right
do
there.
have that. So if you
We own the
are
system.
in the electrical piece of the business of Montgomery College and you come out with your certificate in as an electrician, you can go into fire and security. You can.
You can.
Yes.
Yes.
And
Fire and security, what's the security?
so
Wait, I think
security
we have a- we
is
have-
anything from cameras to door locks to access controls, all that.
Proximity sensor.
Yes.
Dome cameras you see outside of businesses, things like that. I mean, we do and then all the fire safety as well, but I manage the security team for ours, but that's non-union as well. So that's a whole separate department.
With that type of career, is that support refrigeration still?
Yeah, I will say this. I went HVAC.
Yeah.
And I branched into security and I branched into fire and I branched into refrigerate. I branched into a lot of different things. When you go into the HVAC program, you learn basic electricity, you learn how to wire a motor, you learn safety, you learn all that. And in the HVAC field, you have to have, because of code, smoke dampers that are involved. You have duct detectors that are involved that you as a HVAC technician are installing and wiring up. So when you go into the HVAC field, you literally can branch into any other field out there because you learn all the basics to start. So where an electrician goes out and they learn how to, wire everything and do everything, as a mechanic, you have to learn that and more, from low voltage to high voltage. When you get to some of these chillers, you're talking really high voltage, right? And the funniest thing about
with chillers, you gotta have a board.
You have to have a board.
The days of electromechanical controls are over. It's all digital.
Auto transformers gone.
Yeah.
So basically, as the voltage gets higher, the wires get smaller.
Yeah.
So in the industry, you don't want to sit there and get in your mind, that's a small wire, so it doesn't have high voltage. That's not true. So you got to be very careful and be very safe when you're working in the industry. And HVAC teaches you that. It's basically within the system. Like I was saying, you can get a residential system that has all the components that spread all the way out to the larger commercial equipment. The science and the way you control it doesn't change. The only thing is the capacity. The bigger the vessel to exchange heat.
I think this wraps up our final round of questions, and thank you to the panel again for engaging us so deeply with the additional time that you've been able to contribute from your schedules. Time is certainly valuable and unrenewable resource. So we do have one last. Pardon? Oh, yes. If anyone is interested in a tour, Dean Roberts will provide that opportunity as well. And we do have one.
I was asking for a show of hands. How many
Oh.
people would like to do a tour? Anybody? Okay,
One person?
That
Okay.
was the person I thought.
Okay, so we do have an opportunity for you to give us some feedback on the panel discussion that we had today. So if you would like to just take a screenshot of you or barcode shot of the code that's on the screen, you can fill out a survey, and that would be very helpful to us. Just to get some feedback from you in regards to this panel discussion. Thank you, Nick, for your genius.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
All right.
that's from commercial refrigeration system.
Mhm.
I've put in a couple in my life.
Yeah, so have I.
Really enjoyed it.
Now, see, you didn't ask me, now what you have to ask these three people, how many emails and phone calls are they gonna have to respond to? They'll find you.
I'll see LinkedIn start popping up.
Yeah. I shut mine off, so I wouldn't keep beeping in my head.
Definitely. Thank you for the opportunity.
So I wasn't a union contract. I was the head of the open shop. But every summer I go to Washington Community College in Ann Arbor and judge the union's 6 people from the different regions in their national competition.
Wow, that's awesome. My cousin actually won that.
Did he? Well, I might have judged him.
Probably did. It was funny. He went, he's valedictorian out of the school, did everything, just kicking. And he just says, I'm done. And he went in engineering.
Did he?
I know she kept us all-
He was doing really good.
Okay, it's been it's amazing to watch those guys. I mean, you know, these are 5-year apprentices, the 6 top region people from all over the United States, and it's just amazing to watch.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I need to just order some. I just haven't. Yeah.
All right, sounds good.
Are you in the program? Okay.